What's up, CBC? It's good to see you again. Pastor Brad here with our daily Bible reading. And today our reading's from James chapter 1, verses 19 through 27. And this is what it says. My dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry, because human anger does not produce the righteousness that God desires. Therefore, get rid of all moral filth and the evil that is so prevalent, and humbly accept the word planted in you, which can save you. Do not merely listen to the word and so deceive yourselves. Do what it says. Anyone who listens to the word but does not do what it says is like someone who looks at his face in a mirror, and after looking at himself, goes away and immediately forgets what he looks like. But whoever looks intently into the perfect law that gives freedom and continues in it, not forgetting what they have heard, but doing it, they will be blessed in what they do. Those who consider themselves religious and yet do not keep a tight rein on their tongues deceive themselves, and their religion is worthless. Religion that God our Father accepts as pure and faultless is this: to look after orphans and widows in their distress, and to keep oneself from being polluted by the world. Now, I actually really love this passage because it's both challenging and helpful in our relationship with Jesus. And an illustration that might kind of help us with this passage is actually talking about my wife, Allison, who has a great green thumb. I can't save a plant to save my own life, but she can. In fact, when we originally received this plant that's right next to me, it actually looked more like this plant, this dead thing, this stick. It was super brown. There wasn't very many leaves, maybe like 2 leaves holding on for dear life. The plant really should have been thrown away. It was dead, a dead plant. But Allie did a few things to help activate the plant so that growth could begin again, so that growth could happen. And one of these things that she did, I had no idea a plant could do or go through, was something called a salt shower. So basically, she just focused on this plant for a while and gave it some TLC, some tender love and care. And the plant went from looking super dead, had no future, to vibrant and green, and there's tons of leaves on it. And here's the thing, I think this analogy is similar to what happens when we engage in God's word in our lives. Something similar takes place. It's one thing to know God's word exists, to be generally familiar with it, but it's another thing to actually live it out in our lives. If Allison took a plant but didn't do anything, it would stay dead. If she didn't focus on it, it would stay dead. But she cared for it, she watered it, she found the perfect spot for just the right amount of sunlight, and then guess what happened? It started to grow again. And what James is saying in our passage today is that God's word for our lives is what helps us grow. When we engage in God's word in our life, it helps us grow. If we want to be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger, which even for the best of us is probably super hard at times, it's not about us white knuckling it through life to do that. It's really about engaging and living out God's word in life. That's how we are changed. That's how we grow. And we have to understand that it takes time. Allison didn't give this plant a salt shower and then the next day we saw new leaves. No, it took like 6 to 8 months before we saw anything change. First, the roots had to become healthy, and then it affected the stems, and then all of a sudden, lastly, we began to see new leaves. The leaves went from brown to green, and the new leaves would start to sprout. And what James is getting at here in our passage is that there is a difference between saying you follow Jesus and actually following Jesus by living it out. There's a difference. And what helps us live it out, what helps us be obedient to Jesus in our lives, is to actually know what God says, to actually dig into his word for us. And how does that change our lives? How does that affect my Monday, my Tuesday, my Wednesday, all the way to Sunday? I think it's time, as we read this passage, it's time to strip away a religion that's worthless. Sometimes we make it about so many other things other than just following Jesus. And guess what? When we do that, it produces nothing. I think it's time that we live lives that the Father accepts because of our actions. That it's through understanding God's word that we begin to help the widows and the orphans and those that are in need and start to meet those needs. What would it look like today for you to live out God's word in your life? I hope you have a great Friday. Stay safe. Stay home. We love you. We will get through this. And join me today as we try to live out God's word in our lives. See you guys.